And then Claudia, with your business, I know from, personal experience how your business, has affected, me, but, and others that I know. But, for the general audience, the reason I want them and I wanted you on the show again was so that they could get the understanding that hiring an assistant isn't as expensive as you think it would be. Yes, if you had to pay someone for 40 hours a week to pay their medical, all the insurances that are necessary, all the taxes that are involved when you have an employee, all of that becomes overwhelming, especially when you have a small business, a new business, or a business that has not been, in business that long.
Right.
But with you, it's, you've got the experience and you work so quickly and proficiently. And like you said, what you don't do, you bring together that others do. So from that perspective, I wanted you here because I want people to know that it isn't expensive to have a virtual assistant because you're not using them the entire time. Your projects or blocks of time, or if you have specific things that you need to have done, you have her do those things.
And it's really important, too, because as a small business owner, you're looking at your bottom line. You're looking at what you're spending your money on. I'm spending my money, this is how much I'm spending on marketing. This is how much I'm spending on bookkeeping, administration. The great thing about having an administrative assistant is everything that you're paying that administrative assistant is going into an account within your QuickBooks or within your bookkeeping.
Right.
And so at the end of the year, your first year, your second year, you know exactly what you're spending on each type of project.
That's right.
And I think, plus you don't have to babysit. You don't have to keep telling someone what to do. You don't have to, you're dealing with people who are good at what they do, specialized, and they're on top of it. So you are getting a better quality of work that is being handled for your business.
That's absolutely true.
That's what's important.
Yes, because I know working with Jennifer, I gave her the smallest idea, concept, and
I'm looking to talk to her.
She came back with a plethora. I mean, it was just amazing. I'm like, wait a minute, did I say all of that? And she was like, well, here are your bullet points, and this is, what you said, and the curtains have to match
your carpet.
So these are the things you said you wanted. So here you go.
Yeah.
And it pushes you.
Yeah.
And it gives you that confidence, like, okay, I can do this. My idea is a full and complete idea.
Yeah.
You
get a better team.
You get a completely better team. Even, my video team. What would I be without them, right? And my sound engineer, we got a whole little team going here, to make me look good.
Right.
And so, when you have a small business, you want to create a team that is efficient, so my sound engineer, my favorite, and then I have my video team who help me and they stick with me and they make sure I look good on camera and that my guests look good on camera. You need all of that as a support. But if I had to hire them full-time, 9 to 5 every day, I wouldn't be able to afford them. These guys are expensive.
Well, not only that, but I think what we don't realize is that the big businesses, they have the money to professionally pay for each one of us on a full-time basis.
Right.
That is what separates the big business to the small business. But I think we're in a time where the small businesses can now start competing. I mean, look, we've got companies like Airbnb who have, in 6 years, 4 years, outran their competitor who have been in business since the mid-90s. So we are in that point where the competition, the playing field is leveled.
That's right.
And now we all have the ability to draw in our talents and together collectively, and really the sky's the limit here.
That's right. So all you talk show hosts, move
Watch
over.
out.
Here comes Miss Charliine and Lunch with the Finance Bunch. We're on our way. So because this information is much needed, because we do need to encourage those who may have their businesses to keep going and those who haven't started their business to jump out there and do it. Don't quit your day job until you have a foothold. I'm not telling anybody to jump out the window.
Until you talk to us.
Until you talk to us, yeah.
Exactly.
Until you talk to these three and get yourself, the rhythm going, and then you can, decide what you want to do. Right?
Yep.
Right.
And so I do have, let me see. I'm being so selfish. I'm asking all my questions. What other questions do people call in with? Can you give the listeners tips? The listeners tips for we've gotten the online business going. What else did they ask me to find out from you? One more question I saw down here that I thought was important, and it says for Jennifer, this question is for you. As far as building a brand, we talked about not needing a lot of money to build a brand, but when you're building a brand and you have a focal point, how do you expand your brand without it costing, a lot of money? How do you slowly build that brand versus throwing a lot of money into it and not getting the outcome you're looking at? How do you slowly grow it so that you see the growth?
Absolutely. Well, I like to call that creating existence. So basically, when you're starting a new business, you're creating something into being. And the way you create existence is you talk about it. It's like a tree falling in the woods. If we didn't talk about it, would we even know they fell in the woods? So a lot of the times, especially when you are a small business owner, you are your branding. You don't need to buy you. You just need to be clear on your why. And your why should show up in every single conversation you have with your business. And slowly your why will begin to take form. It may look like a curvy font because you're a woman. It may look like, a graphic color palette because you have a big personality. It doesn't cost any money to be you. It costs time because you have to create clarity on what it is you are doing. And that's why we're here, is we're sounding boards for that. We're sounding boards for what that looks like visually. We're sounding boards for what that looks like operationally. Because if you say something, that's one thing, but what do the first 5 yards look like? Like, what are the first steps that you need to get to that end goal? And circling back to what everyone was saying, because, as someone who was a small business owner, I will tell you right now, it's teamwork that makes the dream work. Your business will only be as big as you are willing to let go. And that's a really hard concept for people because this is their soul baby.
That's right.
Have, like, blood, sweat, tears, childhood dreams. I mean, this is just a big deal.
Right.
So they have a hard time letting go. And the problem with holding on so tight is it makes you blind. So you really have to let go and look at that big picture. And I know I have weaknesses, and what I love is that I surround myself by people that buffer those and don't turn them into anything that's an issue. You're basically saving you from you. So just to circle back to the initial thing, a part of saving you from you when it comes to branding is being intimidated. So save you from you and understand you've already done your branding. You just need to get it to a point where other people can see it. And you just do that by editing. You start pulling things out of that garden until that focal point that they walk away with, that thing that they see is the thing you want them to see.
Don't you feel like you can just do it all when you listen to her? It's like, I can do anything. All I have to do is call Jennifer.
But you can, right? Are we
That's
sitting
true.
here? Because I remember
Absolutely.
a couple months ago, we were sitting somewhere else.
We sure were.
And we were talking about something else entirely.
That's right.
So for me, yeah, it is that simple. You speak it into being.
Right.
I grew up with Star Wars, and I think Master Yoda had it right. I mean, do or do not, there is no try.
That's right.
There is no crying in baseball. You get out on the field. Oh, yeah, it's Star Wars. That makes me so happy.
So, in speaking to that, that brings up another topic that I always talk about, and that's fear. The fear factor that stops people from doing the things that they want to do and holds them back. I mean, that's something that I feel. Jennifer, could you speak to fear a little bit, and then I'll have each of you speak to that and help encourage people and talk to how you can walk through that fear.
Absolutely. Well, I'd like to publicly announce I am a recovering perfectionist. I had to learn somewhere along the way that I wasn't going to have it together at all times. Nails would chip. I'd run late. That was just what was going to... So I'm daily working on recognizing that 80% will always be greater than zero. Right. And I think as small business owners, just getting out of the gate, there's so much judgment. And when I hear fear in this context, I hear judgment.
Right.
I hear judgment on what you think you're capable of. I got news for you. You don't know what you're capable of. So limiting yourself out of the gate like that, you're not going to get much of anywhere. So first off, if you expect people to plunk down money and see value in you, You have to see value
That's
in you.
right.
You know, and I think a lot of the things that cripple, you know, it is a lot of fear-based decisions. So what I try to encourage people to do is get very clear on what I like to call fact or fiction. It's the little game I like to play. So for example, if I was a girl, you know, and I went on a bunch of dates and I got dumped 3 times in a row, you know, I'd be sitting there being like, I'm never gonna find a man, there's something wrong with me. And I start functioning from that space.
Right.
I start functioning from fiction. I walk around with a chip on my shoulder, I'm angry, I say mean things about men at any opportunity with my girlfriends over a glass of wine, versus just realizing that statistically sometimes you're gonna strike out. You know, and just operating from the fact that you will not be perfect. You will make mistakes. But as someone who's sitting here right now, I will tell you that I have learned more from my mistakes. I have learned from clients. I have learned more from clients gone mad awkward than I have for those where I nailed it every step of the way.
Right.
So if you language things differently to yourself, you didn't do something wrong, you learned something.
Right.
You know, and there's a power to how we language to ourselves. We brand ourselves to ourselves, if you really want to think about it that way. You know, a friend of mine pointed out to me I use the word hard a lot. And it was so crazy. He challenged me. He was like, what if you put any time that you're going to say, oh, that's hard, or oh, that looks hard, anytime the word hard is about to come out of your lips, substitute it for another word and see what happens. And I was like, okay, I'm game. So I picked challenge, and lo and behold, instead of things being hard, they just got challenging. And now I'm trying to shift away from challenging into manageable. Because now I'm just like, why is it always like Mission Impossible or you know,
Right.
I gotta slow my roll a little bit.
That's right.
So now, you know, I'm going on to manageable. But, you know, fear is just not trusting yourself.
Yes. And Ian, what would you say to that? Because you came right out of college,
Yeah.
started your own business, didn't miss a step. You didn't go, you
Yeah.
know, traipsing off to work at someone else's company for 5 or 10 years. You just said, I'm doing this.
Yeah,
So where'd you get that courage from?
It was definitely terrifying. So,
Okay.
you know, we're looking at senior year of college, and all my other classmates and friends are, you know, going out for interviews and getting, you know, job offers. And this was 2000. So, you know, they were getting, you know, $60,000 a year salaries and, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 signing bonuses. And so they were doing well. I didn't interview at all. I knew I wanted to have my own company. I'd start up a little small company while I was in college with some other friends, and we were doing okay. But they all got offers, so they were going off to, you know, ENG.
they dropped that.
Yeah, they dropped that, and they went on. And so I'm sitting at graduation, and I get my first solidified phone deal right after the commencement address.
Wow.
And so that was, and from there it's just been a steamrolling on of new projects, new gigs, referrals from both USC, within USC, as well as from Caltech and, you know, Arizona State, and my older brother went to Harvard, so I've expanded over there. And so it's just been a nonstop journey right now of something new. But it never would have happened if I didn't get over the fear of failing.
Right.
And so if you are too afraid to start, or too afraid because you might land on your face, then you're never going to do it. So just, you know, take a leap of faith and step out there and say, hey, this can become reality.
Yes, I'm enjoying this.
That's
I'm telling you
awesome.
guys, I'm really enjoying this. Okay, and then Claudia, what would you say about a challenge, you know, getting over your fears?
Right away, I think the thing that came to my mind was not really caring about what other people think, because I think the judgment also comes from allowing you to believe what other people believe about you.
Yes.
And you know, last night, you know, sitting in this branding conference, the one thing that kind of, well, I had a lot of things that stuck out, but one of them said, hey, if someone is not comfortable with your level of confidence, they're not your client. So that being said, if someone's not comfortable with you being confident, or being comfortable with you having a different mindset, with wanting different things, with wanting a different path, then that's probably not only your client, but that's not probably the great person for you to surround yourself with.
That's right.
And so we are, as business owners, and I think we'd all agree, is that we're all kind of like have these quirky personalities that we're constantly working on. Mm-hmm. We're constantly working on our character, our personality, what makes us tick. That's the one thing I loved about sales, is that sales was going to help me learn more about myself when dealing with other people.
Right.
And so when you understand this, and understand that it's not just a business that you're doing, you are going after becoming a whole different person. And that person, whatever that looks like, is the clarity.
You're building your brand.
You're building your brand. You're building who you are. And so it's kind of like when I look at other entrepreneurs and other people, it's kind of like we're all these personality, addictive, like weirdos, but yet we're trying to work through those to make this thing work.
Right.
And so I think the fear comes from what other people are thinking about us. And so once we let that go and surround ourselves with a really good, solid support, those fears will just, and also action. The more action you take, the less the fear goes away.
That's very true. And I know one of the concepts that I heard was, are you a giraffe or a turtle? And if a giraffe and a turtle can stand in the same space, but they'll never see the world from the same point of view. And a giraffe cannot come down to the turtle's point of view, he would die because too much blood would run to his head and he'd keel over and die. So,
right.
To stay at that level so long. So the giraffes of the world need to, those who see your vision like you do or have their own vision are the people you should hang out with, and let the turtles do what they do. Giraffes should never try to come down to a turtle's eye perspective because it won't happen.
Yeah.
It's just not a fit, and
It's just
nothing
not a fit.
personal. And that's the thing, that I really wish, sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It's something that I really wish people would